What's going on, guys? Bel Air here. We are on Radosin point of view to watch Team Vitality battle against Gen.G. This was the round 2 matchup from today, and this is my first time watching these games. This was going at the same time as Falcons BDS, which I know I was going to be making a video on, which came out a little earlier, and so I figured, hey, we're going to rewatch these. Why don't we do it as a unit and see how Vitality were able to overcome this Gen.G team, who tomorrow are going to be going up against Oxygen Esports. Those are two teams who have had less than stellar starts to the event, as Radosin is doing a little dancing here outside the box. But wanted to start off with Radosin because he apparently has a burner of a game here. And this is kind of exactly what you hope. If you're a fan of Vitality and you have them going deep in this tournament like I did, I had them coming second, making it to the grand finals, losing to Falcons. But hey, at a certain point, there's a ton of teams who just on the day it's gonna be who shows up. But if you're a fan of Vitality and you want them to be contending for and winning this event, Radosin having days like this, day ones like this, are huge because you know what you have in Zen. Alpha is a gifted striker and kind of the veteran of the team, and Radosin is your X Factor, kind of similar to what we used to expect from Turbo Pulsa back in the NRG days, where it's like, look, Justin is kind of this prodigal player. Garrett is the veteran. It's a little bit different, but I'm trying to draw the comparison. And then Turbo, it was kind of like there was a term for turbo goals, which was just kind of like sometimes just wacky stuff would happen. And Radosin is similarly volatile, where he kind of plays loose. So sometimes just weird stuff will happen, but then other times he gets huge winning 50s in the box, like that one. That put Vitality in the lead here. Very interesting Vitality going for that fake kickoff. We saw some really nice kickoff strats from quite a few teams today. I was very impressed by OG for one, and it looks like Vitality is pulling them out here as well. I feel like Vitality have kind of risen back to where they, not where they should have been, because I don't think they've ever dropped off of this point, but you know, it was wild that there was last season they went on that crazy run to win, the spring major and then the world championship to close out the season. And it felt like they were just, how could you possibly beat this team? And of course, as we know in sports, like with the Denver Nuggets just losing to the Timberwolves after having such an incredible season and Jokic being the MVP and then winning it last year. And it's like, oh man, like how can you possibly beat this team with Murray and Porter and Jokic, of course, and the deep? It just ends up happening, If you're the top team, you will always get other teams' best shots, and people will be watching the most footage of you because you're who stands in their way of winning. So it seems like Vitality had a little less venom to start off this season, as Carmine Core were absolutely cranking, and of course Gentlemates ended up winning the first major, but now they seem to be back and are on the top of most people's minds. Seems like it's kind of Vitality, BDS, Falcons, and G2 are the top 4, depending on kind of, what your fancy is. But Radosin there on the cutback is going to kind of hop underneath that air dribble bump attempt. Going to bump into his teammate in Alpha there, and it almost bites him in the butt. But this Gen.G team on the other side of things find themselves in a very weird spot where, of course, we know that NA is certainly weaker than Europe when you consider the fact that, basically any team out of Europe seems as though they could potentially win it, and I don't think we talk the same way or feel the same way about NA. And Gen.G were able to win Open Qualifier 4, the first event of this major split, but then G2 really ran things, and what a passing play late in the game here. How does this one kind of come about. Radosin, not a great 50 out, but he had low boost, and then just a great passing play there is going to get Gen.G back on the board. But you know, they're in a really funky spot, right? They won, they have high expectations because the core of this team won a major last season. They won the fall major to open up the season, as it were. And that was with Nolly instead of Firstkiller. And wow. Speaking of Firstkiller, I think he gets caught here. What an incredible pre-fit by Radosin. Chronic is way too slow. What is Chronic doing? Why is he so slow to this? Does he just like feel like he has more time? That's a weird one. Oh, oops, I'm not on Chronic. And then FK just gets caught on the back wall there. I really am curious how Chronic is so slow to this. I guess it's just like, oh, wow, Radosin turns so fast. It's in his blind spot. Really taking a lot of time given the circumstances here. By the way, this is game 2. I don't know if I said that from the outset. Vitality, oh my god, what a pass by Radosin. Vitality absolutely whooped him. I think 5-0 or 5-1 in game 1. And so this is Gen.G trying to start responding here. And Chronic gonna float one off the backboard. Pretty nice attempt for a 0 second. And that one's probably, nope, not yet, not gonna die. Getting kept up by Gen.G. Radosin with the fake, and it's probably just going to carry this one all the way out, try and take a 50. There it is. Radosin, 2 goals, 3 saves on 3 shots. Hyper efficient from him. Look at all the saves from Gen.G on the other side. Really, really kept on their heels throughout that first game. But let's go ahead and hop over to, this was game 2, so let's watch game 4, and then we'll watch the closeout in game 5. All right, let's hop on board the only Octane on the pitch here. This is Firstkiller for game 4. As we were talking about, as that last game kind of was coming to a close, Gen.G have high expectations put on themselves because they won a major last season. In the offseason, they opt to shed Nolly from the roster and went for Firstkiller. And Jack kind of, you know, said what we all were thinking as we get the first, what a great passes in the quick chats there from Jack as Firstkiller stole one to open things up here. But, you know, Firstkiller was considered by many to be the best player in North America, one of the best players in the world. And Jack said it in an interview where he was like, you know, paraphrasing here, but he was like, you make that move, you know, like Nolly was great for our team, we did some winning, but when you have the opportunity to get Firstkiller, you do that. And while they certainly have improved the quality of their roster, it seems like cohesion is something that this team has struggled with, whether it be them trying to blend with FK trying to blend with them, because the role that he played previously, as when you compare it to the role Nolly played for this team, are incredibly different. Nolly was kind of a facilitator. He was a bruiser. He was kind of, you know, setting up plays for Gen.G, and FK is more of a carry. You know, he likes to have the ball in his hands, which makes sense. He is very gifted on ball, a lot more mechanically savvy, and has a deeper toolkit than what we anticipate from Nolly. But Nolly is I wanted to say a great teammate, but that sounds as though it's a diss to Firstkiller, which I don't inherently mean it to be. Nolly is a more affable person who has a more a personality that comes through more clearly and often than Firstkiller, who's more stoic, which I think plays a little bit of a factor, but let's not overblow that because that's all kind of speculative, right? But getting back on track, I think one of the big differences is that Firstkiller, Gen.G have expectations because they had won before. Firstkiller has expectations, and those two expectations I think might create a sense of anxiety for this roster because Firstkiller has been to the summit previously. He made the grand finals in the winter of last season, and they went up 2-0, and then they ended up dropping 4 straight to Carmine Corps, and it was Firstkiller who infamously was the one who kind of tossed away the final goal on a pretty silly mistake from his own backboard on Neo Tokyo. So, you know, Firstkiller joined this team because he wants to win. This team brought on Firstkiller because they want to win. And when you're not winning and a roster was constructed for that purpose, things can get pretty tense pretty quickly. As we see Firstkiller full boost is just going to get totally doinked off of this ball. Is going to trade one back on Radosin there. And Gen.G had won game 3, so Vitality go up 2-0, put Gen.G on their heels, and just terrible spot here. What on earth is happening to Vitality in their box here? I went back a little too far, my mistake, but I was yammering. So let's see how this one kind of comes about. We have Radosin on the backboard. It's going to fall down. Zen tries to bump it out. Alpha was just kind of there. I think this ball lost more momentum than was expected, and Firstkiller just so happened to be in the perfect spot for that one to put 2 on the board here. But when you aren't winning in your home region and then you are dropping matches here that you're expected to win, it's not great for you know, the team, but for what it's worth, I think it's a positive sign, if we're going to be glass half full, that Gen.G answered and responded how they did. We're going to see this go to game 5 after this. The fact that you dropped 2 to Vitality and and the first one was a 5-0, and you could have just been like, hey, like, it's over, and you come back and respond and take it to game 5 and make that game 5 competitive. I think that's something that you can hang your hat on for if you're Gen.G. And there's one that's going to float in to make this kind of tighter than we anticipated late here. I think this is going to be a very important event for both of these teams, but more for Gen.G. I think Vitality, of course, have proven that they have it. We've seen it before, and they've still been contending at a high level. I think unless they, of course, totally like drop out of this, Firstkiller. We got to see the reset. Nobody challenges. Light, feathery first touch, and then just right over the top of Radosin. Put it right behind him, too. The whole other side of the net is open. Radosin knows he has to cover it, so you just drop it off speed behind him. Really nice play there. Radosin really straightforward on the demo attempt, but it looks like he's just trying to make some confusion as Vitality know they got to go here. But, you know, if you're Gen.G, I don't think... How do I phrase this? I don't think that... just wasted some clock here. I don't think if you are going to win a LAN event this season, that your best chance is at the World Championship, because you know you're not going to change the roster. And let's look at this. Firstkiller with the hat trick. Almost a double savior, 861 points. Huge performance from the star that you bring in. This is why you add Firstkiller, right? For series like this to contend with the big dogs here, give you a little more juice and firepower when you need it. And this is a game 4 where he certainly showed it. Of course, one of those goals was complete thievery from Jack, but we'll still call it 2 and 5 there for Firstkiller. So let's hop into game 5. And we'll see how this one ends up shaking out. Champions Field, Alpha 54. He's been here a time or two. I love when Bacchus mod sometimes will like start up and it puts you like really, really close on the player's car, like it did at the beginning of this for Alpha. So I was kind of rambling, trying to collect my thoughts on the Gen.G piece of things. Ultimately, what I'm trying to say is this. This team came together because they want to win a major event, and if they cannot do it this season, I would not be surprised if this team looks different next time around. The RLCS moves so fast because a couple of reasons. I think first and foremost, there's only a couple international events per year, and everybody wants to win them. So if you are not winning, you have to make some changes and situations like what we had from NRG for a few seasons, or you know, situations. I was going to say Shopify Rebellion, although they've changed, but things like that where you kind of have the core of rosters sticking for a really long time when you're not winning is rare. And I think something else that is impactful is we see this in sports like the NBA, where player movement is pretty common, and I think it's even more common for a young esport like this, because it's young and life experience kind of leads a lot of people to want to team with their friends and things like that. Shift has been doing a really good job of, and I promise this connects to the point I was just making, doing a really good job of putting out some YouTube content where they're doing like short little interviews with players at the LAN. And Joyo had talked about his departure from Moist, and he essentially said, you know, it just got kind of stale and you want to find new situations, as Alpha cannot play Rocket League here. It gets demoed several times in a row. But, you know, he said it gets stale and you kind of want to find winning teammates. He starts chatting with Oski, who he's friendly with, and that's how that team comes together. And I think that, you know, things like that are exactly what I'm speaking to. And if you're Gen.G, I don't know, it's too early to start doing like hypotheticals of player movement. But let's just do one to, you know, kind of satiate the hunger for it there. Let's say, oh my goodness, does that go in? Did my video freeze? I don't really know what's going on. Oh, hey, we're back. All right, that was weird. Maybe I'll cut that out. We're going back to look at this one again. And very, very interesting. Look at this. Chronic just totally gets pancaked here on this challenge. Oh, Alpha. One of the things that makes Alpha such a good striker is how much power he always puts on his shots. But let's get back to that hypothetical team movement for Gen.G. Let's say they lose this event in a bad way and then bomb out of the World Championship as well. What about a situation where Chronic goes to rejoin Two Piece? They played together on randoms and were very good. That's kind of how they both first came up into things. And what if they decide to keep a veteran like Justin, and you know, Chronic is kind of the Parth replacement, or he could be a Justin replacement and you keep Parth. I think you know, a situation like that is interesting. But you know, there's also a chance that Gen.G really turn it up and they end up winning this event, and then all of this is just silly because this team works. And oh my god, Alpha, that was such a nice strike. Didn't end up finding the net, but A for effort for sure. As we got 2 minutes left in this one, and how are Gen.G going to respond? Firstkiller with the top right corner block, and they are really trying to get out here, but in trying to do so, they have a man pay for his car on the pitch here. Great little doink by ApparentlyJack to get it by 1. Really trying to play out of this corner, but Alpha's just going to get right out to this one. That left corner wall is definitely going to have some tread on it, and now we're breaking out to the other side here. But I think today's wins for Vitality are great ones. They showed up and beat Chiefs really handily, as they should have. That's what you expect. You're supposed to beat the opponents in front of you and not play down, or, you know, lose games that you shouldn't. So a pretty dominant performance from them there is what you want to see. And then overcoming this Gen.G team is a big win. And then if you're Gen.G, of course, we already talked about this kind of being like a, you know, not a win, but something that you can be excited about, going to 5 after a slow start. And then they overcame Team Secret late in 5 as well, I believe, to get to this 1-0. So a little bit shaky of an event for Gen.G. Like I said, they're going up against Oxygen tomorrow, who have had an incredibly shaky day 1. Ended up losing to Power from OCE, and then beating Gladiators in the 0-1 match. But I gotta tell you, you should go look at that series score. I want to watch that series later tonight. But really tight contested on the score lines. Oski for the day has like 13 goals. Joyo has 3, and Archie scored 0 goals today. So Gen.G and Oxygen, two teams that are in a weird spot that we're going to see face off against one another tomorrow. And Vitality are going to continue the charge. I got this wrong in the first video that I made, and I don't think I'm going to be able to correct it this time. I think Vitality are playing Furia. I feel pretty confident. I think I said they play Falcons in the video earlier, but I'm pretty sure they play Furia. So great matchups for these teams tomorrow. Excellent way for Gen.G to crawl back into this, but Alpha in that kind of crunching pancake block there on Chronic to send one right into the goal ended up being the deciding factor here. Let's pull up the scoreboard real quick as Alpha 1 of 6. Quite a lot of shots here as Vitality were holding Gen.G under a lot of pressure, and that seemed to kind of be the key. Shocking, right? If you are stuck on your heels defensively, it makes it harder to take shots and win games. So guys, thank you so much for tuning into the video and checking out the channel. As always, I appreciate you taking the time, and until next time, take it easy.